Good evening, friends. Welcome to our Python class. Today, our topic is inheritance. Here, we learned about what is a class, what is a class consists of. Class generally consists of functions and methods. How can we develop a relationship between the classes? Consider a class called a parent. The name is parent. Inside the class, I have created a function called display. There is a one statement inside of that class. So there ends one class. The class name is parent. The name of the function inside of the class is display. Fine. Now I am considering another class called child, but here a difference you observe. After writing the child class, I have started with some brackets, and inside that bracket I have kept parent. That means there is a relationship between a parent and a child in between these two classes. There is a relationship that is called inheritance relationship. First one is a parent class, next is a child class. After child class, this bracket start and close, and inside that you need to mention who is the parent for this child class. Parent is the parent for this child class. So now there is another function called show. The function name is show. The function name is show. Inside of that function, I have written something called print. The print statement I have written. So there are two classes totally, where the relationship between these two is formed with a single inheritance. That is a base class and a derived class. Base class and derived class relationship is formed. Now, if you create any object to a particular class, that is obj is equal to child. That means I have created an object for a child class. Obj is an object for the child class. So obj can be able to by using obj, we can able to access the classes of child. That is obj.show. Obj.show. This is okay. There is nothing great inside this, but obj dot display. Display is a class belongs to a parent class. Display is a function. Sorry, display is a function belongs to a parent class. Display is a function belongs to parent class. But obj is an object belongs to child class. Child class object, using child class object, if you are able to access the functions of the parent class, that is called a inheritance. Why this type of facility or feature is, there is a relationship between these two classes. That relation is called a single inheritance. Friends, in reality also, you observe, whatever the parent have some money, that can be used by a child, money or property. But child is having some property by own. That property can be handled by child, and at the same time the child can be able to handle the properties of the parent. That is called a single inheritance. This we can remember based on this type of syntax called the keyword called class. After that class name. After that inside of the bracket you write the parent class. Here parent is not the reserved word. We can use any word you want. Here also child is not a reserved word. You can use any word you want. But class is a reserved word. So this is a simple inheritance or a single inheritance. That means there are only two classes. In between these two classes, we are forming a parent and child relation, or a base class and a sub derived class relation. This seems to be a single inheritance. That is nothing but a parent and child. One parent and one child. Now there is another type of inheritance called multi-level inheritance. What is a multi-level inheritance saying is, there is a class called grandparent, which consists of one method. And there is another class called parent. But there is a single inheritance between grandparent and parent, because class parent and grandparent we kept. So there is a relation. And then class child parent. So grandparent, parent and child. And once again I am saying you, these grandparent, parent and child are not the reserved words. You can use any class name you want, but for your understanding purpose, I am naming that like grandparent, parent and child. So this is a multi-level inheritance. What is a multi-level inheritance? We can create a object for a child class. That's why here you see the statement obj is equal to child. I have created an object for child class. But obj dot display 2 I can use. Obj dot display 1. Obj dot, here the mistake is there. Suppose this is any display parent. So that means what? Using an object of child class, if you are accessing the functions of a child class, that is not a grade. But using the object of a child class, we can use the functions of a parent class and at the same time grandparent class also. So this saves some code reducibility. So that means we can save some lines of the code and save some time and cost. You can create an object for a child class, but we can access the functions or methods of a child class plus parent class plus grandparent class also. That is called a multi-level inheritance. In the previous example, we can imagine that a parent is there and a children is there. Here we can imagine that one grandparent, one grandparent and then parent and then child. This is a multi-level inheritance. Now, here hierarchical inheritance. Another example is hierarchical inheritance. What is hierarchical inheritance saying is, a parent can have two children. So that's why you clearly observe here. There is a class called parent. You can have one function inside it. There is another class called child1, which is a single inheritance with the parent. That's why these two, you can observe these two things. So another class called child2, which is also a single inheritance with the parent. So you are considering two derived classes. One is a derived class 1, another one is a derived class 2. So there is a single inheritance relation between a derived class 1 and a base class, derived class 2 and a base class, same base class, not another. So in this case, we can create an object for child1 class. So we can access a display 1. the function called display one. At the same time, object one for child one, object one dot display one, object one dot display also. So if you create any object for child class, child one class, which can be used for the parent also. And at the same time, if you create an object for child 2, we can use for the parent also. So that's why obj1 is equal to child 1. obj1 is an object for child 1 class. obj2 is an object for child 2 class. Fine. Based on obj1, we can access child 1 and parent. obj2, we can access child 2 and parent. Derived class 1 with base class, derived class 2 with base class. That is called hierarchical inheritance. We can understood that there is a one parent who is having 2 children. Now another case called multiple inheritance. That means there is a parent 1 and parent 2. That is father and mother and only one child. This is called a multiple inheritance. So here something called different. You can see parent 1 and parent 2. 2 base classes, 1 derived class. How we can do? We can create a class called parent 1. We can create a class called parent 2. And we can create a child which is having inheritance with parent 1 and 2 at a time. So that's why child parent 1 comma parent 2 at a time. Unlike previously you have done child 2, just parent you have mentioned here. But here child, class child, parent 1 comma parent 2. 2 parents at a time inheriting to the child class. Base class 1 and base class 2, which is a derived class. So if you create any object for child class, we can access parent 1 and parent 2. This type of situation is called a multiple inheritance. So friends, there are some inheritance, there is an inheritance mechanism which we observe from C++ and Java also. At the same time, we have a same mechanism in Python. So it is an important feature of an object-oriented programming. We have 3 important features of an object-oriented programming. One is encapsulation, another one is polymorphism, another one is inheritance. There are different types of inheritances which we have seen in the present class. So reuse our code in a multiple ways and variety of the ways you can use, and we can have some little modifications also. So inheritance is nothing but it is a feature to derive the properties of one class into another class. That is the definition, actual definition. So we can have the properties of one class into another class. How? We have a property called display. That display property we are using in, that is the property of the parent actually, but we are using in the child. That means we are using in the child in the sense we are using the parent methods from the object of the child, right? It reduces the redundancy of the code and extensibility. That is actually the main feature of Python is extensible language. So extensible means we can have more number of features with less number of lines of code. So in order to improve that extensibility, inheritance will take part a major role. So time is and cost also very less. Time means a time complexity. Cost means a number of lines of code, that is a space complexity. So time complexity and space complexity will be saved if you use the concept called inheritance. This is about what is the inheritance. And what are the types of inheritances? Means a single inheritance. That means a parent and a child. And multi-level inheritance. That is a grandparent, parent and child. We can enjoy the properties of our parents, or not only a parents, of the grandparents also, right? If any one parent is there who is having two children, both the children are having equal rights on the properties of a parent. That is hierarchical inheritance. So if father and mother both have the properties, a single child is can able to acquire both the properties, that is base class 1 and base class 2. The methods belongs to base class 1 and base class 2 can be accessible in the derived class, that is a multiple inheritance. That is about multiple inheritance. And the important one more important concept is public access modifier, protected access modifier, and private access modifier. Access modifier is nothing but a variable: public variable, protected variable, and a private variable. Here in this simple example, you see there are two variables called name and age. There is no symbol before name and age, but here in the name and age there is a symbol called underscore. So that means these name and age are the protected variables. If there is no symbol, these two variables are public variables. If there are two underscores here, before name there are two underscores, before age there are two underscores, these are private variables. So here you see private variables are restricted to the class, protected variables are restricted to the class and its subclass. Public variable can be used anywhere. That means here in the table we can understand where the private variable can be useful, accessible, where the protected variable, and where the public variable. Private variable can be accessed in the own class only, not outside of the class or a derived class. Protected variable in the inside of a class and it's a derived class, not through the object. Public, by the name itself we can say inside of a class or derived class and from the anywhere in the program. You see here windows, doors, and engine type, these three are the public variables where you can use anywhere and we can change the values also. If you consider protected variables, here windows, doors, and engine type, these three are called protected variables because in before windows there is a symbol called underscore, in doors there is another symbol called underscore, in engine type also we have a symbol called underscore. So now these three variables can be accessed inside of the class called car and truck, because there is an inheritance relationship between truck and car. See here, class truck, and inside of the brackets I kept car. That means there is a inheritance relation between these two. So these three variables can be accessed with the object of truck. I have created a small letter truck, word called truck, which is an object for a truck class. So I can access truck dot underscore doors, truck dot underscore doors, because this underscore doors is a variable of car class. Because it is a protected, we can use in the subclass. Car and truck are the there is an inheritance relation between these two. So in the subclass called truck, we can use the variable called underscore windows and underscore doors, which are protected variables. If you consider private variables, so underscore windows, underscore doors, underscore engine type, these cannot be accessible anywhere, but using a class you can access, because this is called car. So so RD dot underscore car underscore doors. So based on car we can use, with the class name we can access, but actually by the property, a private variable cannot be accessed outside of a class or anywhere, only inside of a class. So inside of a class, that means here inside of a class only I am using. So, but I have written for convenience purpose at the outside. Inside of a class only we are using these variables. How we say? That's why underscore car underscore doors I can able to access, because by the class name I can access, but nowhere in the derived class or anywhere in the program it is not possible to access. There are two types of functions. One is called constructor and another one is called normal function. So here you see underscore init underscore, which is called a constructor. Details is a normal function. If you are creating an object P1 is equal to person of Rohit comma 25. P2 is equal to person of Prasad comma 40. So whenever I am creating an object, no need to call init function, because init is a constructor which cannot be called separately. Whenever you create an object, it will automatically execute. That's why I created P1 and P2 are the objects here. Whenever I create the objects, then I ran in init is executed. See, after creating the object only, I ran in init is 2 times printed because 2 objects are created. But if you want to access the details details function, you should call through P1 and P2. So that's why P1 dot details, P2 dot details. But P1 dot init, P2 dot init is not required. That is the difference between a normal function and a constructor. In the C++ and Java, we call that init as a constructor, which is having the same name with the class name. That means here class person. Here we create a function called person in C++ and Java. But here in Python, we create a function called init, which is a constructor. Right. Whenever you create a function or constructor, we need to destruct it. So that is called a destructor, which is a memory management. The concept of memory management is called creating a destructor. Here you observe class A. There is a constructor called def underscore underscore init underscore underscore self. So object is created. Just this is a constructor. And you consider a destructor. Destructor is underscore underscore del underscore underscore self. So create some obj is equal to a. This is object of a class called a. Object will be created. Whenever the work is completed with the constructor, we can destruct it. So del of obj. Del is a keyword used to deallocate the memory created for object. So what is the object? Obj. We can delete that, right? And what is a self? Self is similar to this keyword in C++ or Java, which is a coding convention, and it is a first argument of a function, right? So there are a few things we learned today. That is, what is a constructor, what is an example for constructor, what is a destructor, what is an example for destructor, what is a self coding convention, what are the access modifiers, that is public, private and protected. Public we can use anywhere in the program. Protected we can use inside of a class and its derived class. Private only inside of a class. How can we identify the public, private, protected? Public variable, there is no symbol before the variable. Protected variable, there is an underscore symbol. Private variable, there are two underscore symbols. Here windows, doors and engine type are public variables. Here underscore windows, underscore doors and underscore engine type are protected variables. Here double underscore windows, double underscore doors and double underscore engine type are the private variables. And we move to inheritance. What is the purpose of inheritance? We'll learn. And single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance and multiple inheritance. That's all.